Athena Strayed was born on May 25, 2015, in the small American town of Duncan, Oklahoma. Soon her parents divorced, and the girl's father moved to Texas. Athena stayed with her mother. At the same time, the father constantly kept in touch with his daughter and visited her whenever possible. Sometimes, Athena's mother also brought her to see him. Despite the divorce, they got along well, and the woman wanted her daughter to spend enough time with her dad. Later, Athena's mother remarried, and her father got married. The girl had two younger sisters, with whom she was very close and tried to spend as much time as possible with them. Athena was an ordinary happy child, always making people around her happy with her positive attitude, loved to play and spend as much time as possible outdoors. At the end of 2022, when she was 7 years old, she moved to her father in Texas for a while. The girl was supposed to live with him until the New Year holidays, after which she would return to her mother in Oklahoma. During this time, Athena attended a local elementary school. The house where her father lived was located in a remote rural area surrounded by forests and fields. The girl enjoyed spending time outdoors with her dad, and she also got along well with his new wife Elizabeth. On November 30th, the girl returned from school on the bus as usual at about 4:15 p.m. Her father and grandfather were hunting at that time, and Athena was at home with Elizabeth. That evening, the girl was in a bad mood, which is why she started arguing with the woman. As a result, Athena got offended and went to her room, and Elizabeth went to the kitchen to cook her dinner. About 20 minutes later, she went into the girl's room to call her for dinner. However, Athena was not there. Elizabeth went around the whole house looking for her, and also looked out into the yard, but the girl was nowhere to be found. After that, the woman called her husband's relatives, who lived just a few hundred meters away. Sometimes Athena went to visit them. However, they said that they did not see her. Then Elizabeth called her husband and told him what happened. He told her to immediately call the police and immediately headed towards the house. The woman called 911 at about 6:40 a.m., and officers arrived at her house within 14 minutes. Elizabeth explained the situation to them and also shared her version of what happened. In her opinion, Athena could have run away from home because of the quarrel that arose between them. However, the girl's relatives strongly doubted this. Firstly, Athena was only 7 years old, and she had never gone far from home before. Secondly, it was already evening outside, and the girl was afraid of the dark. At first, the police were suspicious of Elizabeth. This was mainly due to the fact that the woman contacted the police only 40 minutes after she discovered that her child was missing. But after listening to her story about how she searched for the girl throughout the house and called relatives, they came to the conclusion that she was most likely telling the truth. The officers immediately began searching the area. Despite the fact that it was already dark outside, they went to comb the forests and fields within a radius of several kilometers from the house. According to their main version, Athena could have left the house and gotten lost in the dark, so the police threw all their forces into covering this area. They also considered the version of a possible kidnapping, but they were unable to find a single lead in this direction. There were no signs of forced entry in the house. Elizabeth heard no noise or screams, and none of the neighbors saw anything suspicious that evening. The girl's relatives and other concerned residents of the city helped the police search. Athena's mother went there immediately after learning about her daughter's disappearance. The search continued until almost 5 a.m., but they were unable to find any trace of Athena. The situation was complicated by the fact that the area around the house was quite difficult to access, especially at night. Already at 7 a.m., the police resumed the search, involving even more officers. In addition, when the news of the girl's disappearance spread throughout the area, hundreds of volunteers joined the search. Some of them inspected the area on their horses and ATVs, and the police used drones and helicopters with thermal images. Unfortunately, they also failed to find Athena during the entire day. The police feared for her life, since it was already the beginning of winter. Despite the fact that Texas is a southern state, the temperature dropped to 10 degrees Celsius these days. Considering that the girl was wearing light clothing, it would have been very difficult for her to survive such weather. On the third day, the search continued, and the police expanded their area to 10 kilometers around the house. They also involved their colleagues in the case, who were looking for a possible criminal component in this case. Although there was initially no evidence of abduction, the police increasingly doubted that Athena had left home of her own free will. Over these days, they combed several kilometers in all directions, and they still could not find the girl. The fact that she could have walked such a distance on her own without stumbling upon any populated area seemed highly questionable. Investigators tried to identify everyone who was near Athena's house that evening. This task was quite difficult, since the house was surrounded by trees, and also several dozen meters from the main road. In addition, there was not a single surveillance camera in the area. However, they quickly got their first lead. It turned out that a courier service had delivered a package to the girl's house that same evening. Investigators immediately contacted FedEx, who told them that a third-party contractor was delivering to that address. They contacted the organization that delivered the packages, and they identified the exact van that had arrived at Athena's house that evening. Luckily for the police, each of these vehicles was equipped with a surveillance camera, and they immediately requested video footage from November 30th. When they rewinded to the time the van pulled up to the house, investigators saw some very disturbing footage. It showed the driver dragging a girl who looked like Athena into the car. They immediately learned the identity of the driver from the company. He was 31-year-old Tanner Horner, and the police went to his address. The man was soon arrested on suspicion of kidnapping and taken in for questioning. As soon as investigators said they had the video from the camera, Horner began to talk. He said that he had indeed been delivering a package to Athena's house that evening. As he was reversing his van, he felt a bump and got out to see what it was. Horner saw the girl on the ground and realized that he had accidentally hit her with his car. As he got closer, he noticed that she had not been seriously injured. The girl was conscious, not crying, and even spoke to him. According to Horner, she said that she would tell her father what had happened, and the man panicked. He then took the girl into the van, wondering how to resolve the situation. She continued to talk to him and said that her name was Athena. Horner was unsure what to do with the whole situation. He knew that if the girl told adults about the incident, he could face legal trouble. He then told investigators something that, to put it mildly, left them baffled. According to Horner, he could think of nothing better to do than kill her. The man said that he first tried to break her neck, but it didn't work. Then he strangled the victim, took her body to a river near a neighboring town and dumped it in the water. Of course, this version of events raised a lot of questions among the police, but the suspect told them the exact place where he left Athena. Investigators immediately went there and indeed found her body. The news of the girl's murder shocked not only her relatives, but also thousands of people across the country. By that time, all the leading media outlets were reporting on the case, and people were shocked by such cruelty. After the body was discovered, Horner was charged with kidnapping and murder. While waiting for the medical examiner's report, detectives began to study the criminal's personality under a microscope, trying to better understand his motives. The version of events that Horner told them seemed completely implausible. According to him, he slightly hit the girl with a van, without causing her any serious injuries. However, the man was so scared that he immediately decided to kill her. Considering that the maximum punishment for running over a child without causing injury would be dismissal, Horner's story was quite strange. The police established that the man was engaged and had a child a year before these events. In addition to delivering packages, he sometimes worked part-time for Uber. Horner was also involved in music and was in a band that played in various cafes in the neighboring city of Fort. On social networks, he posted many photos with his child, footage from musical performances and other things, looking at which, one does not get the impression that Horner is a real monster. Before his arrest, he had no problems with the law, and in his entire biography, the police were unable to find any hints that this man is a brutal killer. Just 2 months before Athena's death, the man posted photos of himself spending time with his son and his grandparents. The wait for the medical examiner's report, which was supposed to shed light on the real picture of what happened, dragged on for several weeks. Meanwhile, Athena's parents sued FedEx and the contractor for allowing Horner to work. They demanded that the standards for screening and selecting employees be improved to prevent similar crimes in the future. One fact soon came to light that made the whole story even sadder. It turned out that the package Horner was delivering that evening was a Christmas present for Athena. Her parents had ordered a Barbie doll for her, which she had long wanted. When the medical examiner's report became public, even more questions arose in the case. According to the document, the victim died within the first hour of the abduction. Her body was found to have injuries of varying severity, and the cause of death was strangulation. However, the detectives' main theory was not confirmed. They believed that Horner had spotted the girl near her home and decided to kidnap her in order to abuse her, but the medical examiner found no signs of sexual violence. This puzzled the police, because this was the most obvious motive. None of them were sure that the events actually unfolded according to the story of the killer himself, since there was no logic in it. Then the investigators assumed that the criminal had originally planned to abuse the girl, but something went wrong. According to the detectives, after a quarrel with her father's wife, Athena went outside and was in the yard. At the same time, Horner drove up to the house to leave a package and noticed the girl. According to the researchers, he saw this as an opportunity to realize his perverted fantasies. Athena was alone near the house, which was surrounded by trees, completely isolated from prying eyes. Horner could either trick the girl into the van or deliberately run her over to put her in the car without resistance. What happened next is unclear. There are two main versions that seem the most logical. Horner could have planned to take the girl away from the house and do what he had planned, but she either started screaming or tried to escape. Fearing being caught, the man killed her and then took the body to the river. According to the second version, Horner could have committed some kind of depraved acts on the victim that did not involve direct contact. In this case, medical experts would not have been able to establish the fact of sexual violence. Soon, detectives had indirect and very unexpected evidence that this crime could indeed have had a sexual motive. Horner had no problems with the law before this murder, which is quite rare. In most cases, people who are capable of deliberately taking someone else's life begin with much less serious crimes. For many weeks, detectives thoroughly studied Horner's biography. They talked to his relatives, friends and acquaintances, trying to find at least some hints that the man could have been involved in other crimes. And eventually, they had a breakthrough. The police managed to find several people who said they had suffered at the hands of Horner as children. The police did not reveal their identities in the interests of the investigation, as well as all the details of the incident. It is only known that one of the victims accused the man of abusing her 9 years ago. In addition, Horner was charged with 3 more episodes related to the abuse of minors in 2013. At the moment, it is unknown whether we are talking about one child or 3 different victims. But that's not all. It turned out that one of Horner's victims had been publicly talking for many years about the man's violence against her when she was 16. The girl wrote about it on her social networks for years, trying to convey to everyone the fact that Horner is a dangerous criminal. For some reason, the man was not punished for what he did and was not even listed as a suspect. The girl, accusing him of this crime, wrote that for all these years, no one believed her. However, after Horner killed Athena, these accusations were given much more attention. They revealed the true nature of this man and his possible motives. Now Horner will also be tried for these 4 episodes, but separately from the trial for the murder of Athena. I would like to note one more point, which in itself does not seem significant, but in the context of all of Horner's crimes gives an additional idea of his true face. After his identity became known to the general public, internet users discovered the killer's TikTok account. There were only a few videos, of which only the last one, filmed a few weeks before the murder, was of interest. In this video, Horner recorded his reaction to a video in which a man caught a bug in a glass, after which he slowly began to poison it with a spray can. Watching the bug die, Horner's face appeared very creepy, as if he sincerely enjoyed the process of murder. If the man really was a sadist who took genuine pleasure in seeing someone die, his version of Athena's murder is once again called into question. Horner said that the only reason he killed her was because he was afraid of being punished for a much lesser crime. But if we accept that he had such sadistic inclinations, his story seems even more ridiculous. In preparation for the trial, the authorities announced that they would seek the death penalty. Horner himself hired a lawyer who advised him to withdraw his confession and plead not guilty. But this is unlikely to help the man avoid punishment, given that the police have video footage from the van, as well as Horner's testimony about the exact location of the body. His guilt is more than obvious. In addition, after the trial begins, additional evidence may be announced, the existence of which is currently unknown. Most likely, traces of Athena's DNA were found in the van, and genetic material from the killer could well have been collected from her clothes and body. We can only follow the progress of the trial and wait for what other details will become known to the public. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.